This handy with your medical records?
Yeah, the medical records.
Yes.
And this, all this stuff here, I'll give to you.
So these are the articles and such that we can talk about later. But
Right, yeah.
Okay, we're rolling.
is this the stuff? No, this is
No,
Is it hand sanitizer?
That sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer.
And
That's
it's the same thickness.
oh,
And the
I
same,
see.
the same color.
Uh-huh.
You know, I bought some of that the other day just to use it, you know, I said, this is the same.
Okay, good. Well, then you can explain that.
Yeah.
So go ahead and introduce yourself, Don. Spell your name and tell us the date today, please.
My name is Donald Siedenburg, and today is November 30th, 2016.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Yes, it's Siedenburg.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's love to hear your story and what happened back there when you were in the service.
Well, the incident, the study started right when I entered the Army.
When was that?
I lived in it, that was in June 1st of 1954. Okay, I lived in a town, Savannah, Illinois. And Savannah, Illinois had a Savannah Ordnance Depot, which was a U.S. Army military base, which was 8 miles away. My father was working there. He was a civilian employee, top secret security clearance. I happened to be in high school with a young lady by the name of Susan Burbank, who was the daughter of the commanding officer of the military base. And we had a few dates, and I met Colonel Burbank. And so we had a cordial relationship between my father and Colonel Burbank and the family. And I graduated on the 28th of May, and I was joining the Army on the 1st of June. And the recruiting office was at the military base. So Colonel Burbank set it up for me. The recruiter came in, and he looked at my height, my weight, and everything, my age, and he said that they had a study on food source, and that I would be qualified to participate in the study. And we would do it the first 3 weeks of my Army tour. And so they didn't tell me what it was exactly. They brought in another person a couple days later, and he explained what the study was. That it was from a food source from a outer space ship, and that they had tested it for quite a while with lab mice. And the results of the test of the food source with the lab mice was no reactions, violent reactions, and they wanted to try it on humans. So they were having a tough time selling this idea of having humans test this out. And the test was out at Edwards Air Force Base, which is Edwards Air Force Base,
uh-huh.
California, which is Area 51 is connected with it. And so we talked about the situation, and they said they thought that since these, because they had the spacecraft there, I didn't see it. I saw pictures of it, and then they had the two deceased humanoids.
You did see pictures of
I
a
saw
craft?
I saw the pictures of them.
What did that look like?
Well, it looked like the same as the pictures that are online of large eyes and
Of the beams.
of the beams,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay.
And but human hands, feet, and everything else.
So, but longer and gray and all
Longer
that, or
and
were
gray.
different.
Yes, and so
And the craft. You saw the craft also.
I saw the craft also.
Can
a
you
picture
describe
of the
that?
craft.
Can you describe that picture?
It was a saucer, and it looked as though the propulsion end of it had been removed because they had probably had it long enough to reverse engineer it, and that's primarily what they were after the saucer for. And the food source and the exercise source, that was sort of secondary, but they had the food source. So I
And did
saw
they
them
say where they found the food source
on the ship?
on the ship?
Right.
They did say anything specifically about where? Or?
Well, they had vats connected around where the food source was at, and so the situation when the study started, I received 2 ounces in the morning by mouth of that, and it was
Like a cup or in a?
it was spoon
spoons?
because of the I could get it all from the spoon, and it was tasteless. It didn't smell, and it was clear.
Clear. Was it like runny like water, or was it viscous? Or?
It was thick.
It was thick.
It was thick, yeah.
Okay.
And so
About as
yeah,
thick as.
it was.
So let's hold this up. Hold that up for the
okay.
camera.
It was. Let's see if I can get some out of here.
This is hand gel.
Yeah.
Disinfectant. And sanitizer. Yeah. Huh. So that is pretty much what you.
Pretty sure.
Yes. Please don't drink that.
But and a spoon.
Yes.
And it was 2 ounces. So they gave it to me in the morning, and that's all I had.
Uh-huh.
That I had 2 ounces of this every morning for 3 weeks, and then dinner would roll around. They said, "Want anything to eat?" No.
So you weren't hungry.
I wasn't hungry.
Were you thirsty?
No, I wasn't thirsty either.
Did you ever feel weak?
No. It was astounding because I'm thinking the space people need food and they need exercise, and they have no room for a lot of food, and they have no room for heavy big exercise equipment. They have to concise all this down. So and they're out for years and millions of miles, and probably they didn't need the 2 ounces. Maybe they only needed a half ounce because they needed to keep this going for all the time that they were out there. And so during the day, what they did, we had I had well, let's see. Oh, here. What they did when I started out, of course, I had laxatives, and they kept every fluid that came out of my body for the 3 weeks to test, and then a blood test, blood pressure, temperature, pulse.
How often did they do that?
They had a what do they call it? You pedal a bike.
A stationary bike?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was to exercise your heart.
With a heart monitor on you.
Heart monitor, yeah.
Okay.
And they were very careful on the start of this because they didn't know what the reaction would be. Well, I did a lot of exercising through the day. I had a hypnotist come in, and I was hypnotized. And of course, we were talking about that, and this was primarily for the secrecy agreement that I had signed with them.
So this part is very interesting. What happened with the hypnotist?
Pardon me?
What happened with the hypnotist?
What happened to the hypnotist?
No, with you. What did they do with? What did the hypnotist do?
Well, it was sort of like they said like to get you to forget, you know, as I tried this and that for later on, and it wasn't. It really didn't work that well because I really didn't forget anything. You know?
Do you remember what they said?
Not exactly, but it's sort of like they. Have you ever been hypnotized? Yeah.
Yes.
So you can go along with the hypnotist or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So more or less, I was listening and not being hypnotized.
Mm-hmm.
And but I knew after that I had signed a secrecy agreement that's it. You know, I didn't. That's why I waited all these years. I didn't say anything.
What were the terms of the secrecy agreement?
Well, the terms, they never really set a date on it, but
An end date.
but see, I imagine that there was a copy of it in my military records, and my military records were destroyed in that fire.
Yes, you've mentioned that.
Yeah,
In
and
1973.
1973. So I really felt that they probably would deny the study that they might deny it, and then the secrecy agreement would be null and void. But they didn't want anything back then. Spaceships coming, that was all very secret. I mean, that was just taboo to talk about it because I guess it was the War of the Worlds situation in 1938. They didn't want to panic there. They didn't want to panic
Right.
there. But the military wanted these ships because there was so much technology on there that they didn't have, and I mean they were looking for them all over. So that was primarily it for the hypnotist part.
So basically, it was you won't remember. What
You won't remember. If you take a lie detector test, you'll flunk it. So they're giving me this information to discourage me from telling my story.
Or even considering
Probably
it.
2 weeks after I got out of there or whatever, So, but I was very tight-lipped on that. It was.
Sounds like you believe
It's sort of. Oh yeah. Oh, I believe them. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because it was. They were very secretive. And see, when we talked at the recruiting office, when they were telling me this stuff, there were 3 people in there, well, probably 4, that who had top secret clearances. My dad was there, and the company commander was there, and then the recruiter was there, and then the person telling us, of course, he is.
So your dad?
Could you give us the names of those people, please?
Yeah.
Two of them. My dad's name was Albert Glenn Siedenburg. The company commander's name was Colonel L.A. Burbank, and I don't recall the name of the other 2.
The recruiter.
The recruiter or the person. I know the person who came in really never told us what his name was.
Uh-huh. And his position was.
He was
was.
from the department that set up the studies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's the one that set up the schedule to get, because I had to fly out to Edwards Air Force Base.
Did you have the impression you were the only recruit for this, or that there were other people? That this was.
As far as I know, I was isolated out there, and there were 2 or 3 attendants walking around that nobody gave names. That was like my handler. He said, "Call me Buck."
Call him
Call me Buck.
Buck.
And that would, they didn't. Nobody really said anything to me about like, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know who we are because you're here. You're going to be here for 21 days, and then you're going to go back and you're going to be in the Army. And so then that primarily that went on for the 21 days.
So did you have hypnosis every day?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course I had that in the morning. They kept asking me, how do you feel, any reaction, things like. And the only thing, the one reaction that I wasn't hungry. I'm thinking, well, this is some pretty good stuff. I'm not hungry. And what one of the reasons for the study on that part was the logistics of feeding an army is so great. And if you could have a little cup of this in the morning and that's it, look at all of the work and the trucks and the cooks and everything else that you can keep an army going in. And that's what they were looking for. And so the mental part on this, and I think this was one of the reasons that they chose me for the study was because of my high school grades were very poor, and let's see. Oh, here they are. This is my grades from high school. As you can see, very poor.
Yeah, C's
Now-
and D's. There's a B in there. There's an F. Okay, some B's. Manual training and DM training, whatever DM.
One is driver training.
Driver training. Okay.
Yeah.
And then sciences are C, biology D, algebra D, plain geometry D, world history D, American history C, social economics D, English would range D's and C's. Just for the
Yeah. And the one thing I did do, I took a typing class over here. I got a
Okay.
C plus, and
Yes.
that
yeah, C plus.
and that typing class is what got me into typing school in the Army. Let's see, go to here, the DD2, DD 214. My
Good Conduct Medals, National Defense Services Medal. Clerk typist.
I was a clerk typist for 3 years.
And were you just not interested in school?
I had attention deficit disorder before they knew what attention deficit disorder was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you-
And that was, I just couldn't. I was an athlete, and I was very happy with that, and I got enough grades to play, And then my dad suggested that I take a typing class, and once I did that, then that sort of changed my mind around, and then
Because that helped focus you.
that helped focus me, and this stuff helped focus me,
Uh-huh.
and this has helped focus me for I don't know how long, because I just was able to grasp things going on around me, learn things, where before everything went blank, and I don't know what the
So-
reason was, but
Would you say it gave you greater mental clarity?
mental alertness,
And alertness.
uh,
Okay.
of being interested in things that I should be interested in, and learning things and everything, and so what
and, and physically, did you lose weight when you took it?
no, I stayed the same, 120 pounds, And another thing, the recruiter, he sort of, I think he put it in there just to sort of get me to agree to take the study. And that was, they said, they might help you grow. And when you're 5'4", you want to grow. But it didn't work for growing.
Maintenance only.
But it.
Mental alertness.
But mental alertness. But I'll show you one part of my medical records. Just take a look at right here.
Look at the date on this. Oh, this is
This
August
is now.
of 16.
Yeah,
August 11,
this
16.
is new.
Oh, okay. Sugars are great. Vitamin D level is normal. However, he can take vitamin D3 1,000 units daily. Thyroid is normal limits. CMP is great. Cholesterol is excellent. CBC is baseline. Overall labs are great. And this is medical. Who is this from?
The doctor is here. It's Asante.
Asante?
Asante.
Glycohemoglobin, A1C routine.
But everything is in the limit except two things.
So there's some on your blood sugar level. There's a possible. It would need to be investigated a little bit. It sounds like it's a little bit high, 108.
Is it
But not. Let's see. If it's provisional diagnosis of diabetes in the absence of unequivocal hyperglycemia, results should be confirmed by repeat testing. So we'd want to check that. It might have been.
Yeah.
Was it fasting test?
Yeah. Yeah.
But overall labs are great. Urinary risk, cholesterol less than 200, 153. Let's go. That's good. And cholesterol triglycerides 56. LDL calculated 87. Satnamlali, MD. Notes recorded by. Okay. This is, and we can have this copy?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. You can have all that.
Let's see. Red blood cell is a little bit low. There's CT. I'm not remembering what that is. That's also a little bit low. Glucose, as they said, a little bit high. But overall looks.
It doesn't get any better than that.
Yes. It's pretty good. I'd say, yes. Okay, thank you for letting us have this.
Yeah, and that it's been my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I got some follow-ups before you go
Yeah.
on. So backing way up, you already asked were there other test subjects that were involved, and your answer was you don't think so, or you don't have any way to know other test subjects.
I didn't know.
And no one ever said anything, or
No. I imagine it was.
You suspect that there were, but you had no way to know that.
I wouldn't have it. And I didn't know how much of the gel they had. Because hard telling how far out they were, how much they used. They didn't tell me. They had enough for me to take.
So you didn't see it being dispensed out of a larger container. You were just presented a spoonful every day.
Pardon me. What's that?
Well, this gets to the questions that Lori had.
right. They didn't have like a big container and they scooped out to you. They
Oh, no.
brought you the measured amount
Everything.
before you. Yeah. Okay.
No, I didn't see.
You never saw anything
I never
it was
saw.
in. And,
No. It was refrigerated.
It was refrigerated.
These are the kind of details we want.
Yes, yeah.
To your knowledge, was the material that you were given, let's call it the serum, is that your word for it, the serum?
That's what they call it. Yeah.
That's what they called it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just called it the serum?
The
They didn't have a
serum.
formula number or anything, just
No.
the serum?
No.
Did you get the impression that it was manufactured by them, or do you think this came directly off this craft?
No, they told me that it came off the craft, and what they were trying to do is to reproduce it,
Right.
Uh-huh.
because
And they told that to you explicitly, that their goals here were to
was
test
to,
this? with
to
the-
test it. They had an idea of what it did, because of the humanoids taking it. They didn't know how long they had been out, how far they were going, but it worked on them. you
Right.
know. So
they crossed their fingers.
So they was trying to reproduce it, and I would imagine that's what they never did, because they had,
That we know of.
unless they, someone said something the other. I've told people about this after after I turned 80. I've talked to people.
But
about
only
this.
since you turned 80.
Well, only since I turned 80. No, I said nothing.
And you're now,
I'll be 81 in January.
okay, so just
Yeah.
this past year.
Right. And it was I sort of lost my train of thought. Serum.
Whether it was
I
ever
know they're
used.
reproducing.
Yeah.
I know what it was. Sometimes you have a product that's going to revolutionize everything and is patented and everything, and somebody buys up the patent and freezes
produce
the
it.
patent
That's right.
where nobody else
Or they
can.
keep it just for a
Where
select
they
use.
where they keep it like that.
Right.
So that's the only two things. Either they couldn't figure it out, or either they did because it would have changed. It would have changed everything. And for the good. But I thought all this time. I don't know how. 62 years ago, what the records would be, or because they can't still be working on that. They've got to either done something with it, given up on it, or something. And now if something comes across and says, well, here we have this fella here that took this, and
So has anyone contacted you since
No.
those 21 days?
no, I was transferred to Europe after basic training, and I was 2.5 years over there, and the second year I was over there, I had a tonsillectomy, and when I went to the sick hall, and the doctor suggested I have my tonsils out, and they set up the hospital visit and everything, that they were contacted. It was somewhere. It was in my medical records that I had taken this stuff, and they injected some more when I was recuperating from the tonsillectomy.
Some more of the original serum?
Well, I guess it was the original serum, because the tonsillectomy wasn't when you're old. It's sort of a detailed operation, and you're in hospital, especially in the Army. You're in the hospital for a couple of weeks. So they knew I was going to be in the hospital, so that's what they did. But I didn't. It was just an injection. It wasn't.
And they told you that it was the same
Yeah.
serum you had had for
Yeah,
those
that
2
I-
weeks?
yeah. So-
But they obviously did lab work and blood samples and all that during your hospital stay.
Oh, yeah. I had physical every year. So,
That too. Did anyone come and visit you during that hospital stay?
no,
Speak
no,
to
I
you?
didn't. No, the doctor said we've got a note here to do this,
Uh-huh.
you know, and,
They said, how
and I,
did they say how they obtained this serum?
no,
Uh-huh.
no.
But they injected it rather than having you eat
They
it.
injected it because I was getting an injection of penicillin every day
Where did they inject you?
in the rear end.
Uh-huh. And in this, like in the same syringe or 2 shots or
No, it was each day I would get one.
the penicillin?
Penicillin and
So you got serum each day?
each day, yeah.
Oh, okay.
For how many days?
For how many days?
It was 12 days.
For 12 days.
Yeah, that's the length of time I was in the hospital.
So you got a second treatment then?
I got second treatment. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
To a different modality.
yeah, but they didn't. No one really contacted me to ask me, you know, what the reaction was. And actually, I didn't feel it physically. I didn't feel a reaction. Mentally, I felt a reaction. That's where it was. And then they also suggested that there's probably a substance in there for longevity, because these spacemen are out there for how long? And they have to be mentally alert for all that time to fly back. And so having longevity properties in there would make sense, you know, in that realm. And that's why I feel that I've had the life I've had. You know, and because I'll be able to show you later.
I find it interesting that you had the initial treatment in the United States. And where did you know where you went for that treatment?
I was at the hospital in Orleans, France.
I'm sorry, where?
Hospital in Orleans, France.
Orleans. That's when you had the tonsillectomy. But in the original
The-
3 weeks,
That was in Edwards.
that was at Edwards,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
And interesting that, did they have that very quickly for you in Orleans?
well, no, it was a couple month period where they diagnosed the tonsillectomy, or diagnosed that I had bad tonsils,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't take them out right away
Uh-huh.
because I guess they had people ahead of me or something like that.
So there was a couple of
There was a
lead
couple
time.
months after they
You're wondering how
diagnosed
the
it.
serum made it over to
Right.
France.
Yeah, so they knew they would have had
They had
time to
some
get
lead
it over.
time.
It wasn't an immediate thing.
I see, okay.
And because the tonsillectomy, they do it when you're awake, and
Really?
it's sort of like getting a tooth pulled, but they can't put you to sleep, and they have a wire cutter on a little pencil-like thing. They stick that over the tonsil and pull that shut, and it cuts the tonsil out. But the blood in that area is very, very thick. And I recall the doctor who did the operation. He was a Polish doctor. Because I was over there 10 years after the war was over, so they still had these Polish nationals working in the hospitals. And he said in broken English, he says, "Don't swallow or you'll choke to death." You know, and when somebody tells you that, you know, it's sort of shocking. And the only sedative I had was morphine.
Uh-huh.
But you're awake. I was awake.
Uh-huh. What year did that happen?
That would have been 1956.
56.
Yeah,
So
That-
you were in the Army for a long time.
3 years.
Only 3 years.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Another thing where the Army treats you very well after they give you, after you volunteer for these studies, because when you look at that, there are not every study comes out the way mine did.
I know.
Yeah, and a
I'm
lot of them
well
come
aware
out
of that.
very, very bad.
Yes.
Okay, right here is my last day to rank, which was the 18 May 1956. Okay, I went in the Army on June 1st of 1954. So in less
I see.
than 3 years, or less than 2 years, I was promoted from E1 to E5. And that from a private to staff sergeant. And they treated me real good. This place here was get up in the morning, go to work, play basketball. We were 60 miles south of Paris. It was just, I couldn't ask for better service. And that's because they do treat you good, you know.
Well, and maybe wanted to follow you, track you.
They did. It must have. I don't know what could happen on it. Because they're not gonna keep me up to date on it. If they don't want me, they don't
Sure.
want to contact.
Sure,
but they knew where I was.
You're right, they knew where you were, and,
Yeah.
and you get your annual physical.
And then after '73, when they had the big fire down in St. Louis, well, then that's when all my records were destroyed. Now, there were other military records destroyed too. Now, I don't know if by chance the medical records for my operation or my three-week treatment, if that was destroyed too. I don't know.
Have you ever tried to find them since that fire?
Well, I tried to get my records. I didn't know that they had a fire. Okay, and this was this destroyed 16 to 18 million records, military records. So I contacted the service to get my records, and this was all I had. And this down here is just the. They had enough information on me to be able to give me this, but they also had my DD-214. I was given that when I got discharged, so I had that. They didn't have that record. They had that record, but I had a copy of it, and I didn't have a copy of any of my other.
Don, I'd like to go over in greater detail what happened to you at Edwards Air Force Base. Can you tell that story again with more detail, please?
Okay,
How did you arrive there? How exactly were you offered the opportunity to participate in the study?
okay, I was given the opportunity to
And
participate.
what year was this? And what,
It was in June of 1954.
okay.
And that was in
And this was
Savannah.
shortly after you joined the military as a rank of
No,
private,
It was before I joined.
before you even joined.
But I knew I was still in high school. I knew I was going to join the Army. So I went to the recruiter at the base near us, and I told him I was going in. And then through that period of time is when they asked me about the study, because I was young and I was small. And the humanoids are small, and they're light. And so
That's why you were suitable.
That's why I was suitable for that. And so then I joined on the 1st of June, and then after I joined officially,
And you had agreed before you joined.
and I agreed before I joined, and after I was officially in the Army, then they flew me from Savannah, what was it, DC, it was like a DC-3, two-engine job. It was an unmarked plane, and they flew to Edwards. We went into airport, and they flew into a hangar. I got out of the hangar, that's where I was at. And study was over, I went back in the hangar, out, and I came back to Fort Leonard, Missouri. And everything in California, I didn't see anything. I saw the medical.
Were you indoors the whole time?
I was indoors all the time.
Well,
I
I'm
didn't
going to
know-
come back to that part of the
Yeah.
story too, but please back up again to how you were originally made aware of the opportunity to participate in this study, especially since you weren't even enlisted then. How did they describe that to you?
When I contacted the recruiting office, I contacted them, told them I was graduating on the 28th of May, and that I was going to go to the service on the first
Within
of
a
June.
day or so.
Within a day or so.
Couple of days, okay.
Right. And through the period, see, I was at the Army base in Savannah, and that's where we talked about this study.
And that
that's
was with the recruiter?
That's what the recruiter.
At a recruiting office?
No, well, his office was at the Army base
At the
in
Army
Savannah.
base, uh-huh.
So you came to that recruiter's office with the intention of saying, I'm planning to enlist within a day or so. And immediately upon you telling him that, they offered you this opportunity?
No, this was before. I contacted, told him I was going to listen. It was like two or 3 weeks before.
Okay.
I knew I hadn't graduated yet.
Okay.
But they knew it. And then they asked me, or they gave me an option, more or less. They said, do you want to volunteer? Because this was all volunteer.
Well, so describe that part.
Yeah.
Just that part a little bit more. How was that idea proposed
okay.
to you?
Was it just you and the recruiter at that
Okay.
moment?
Once I was in contact with the recruiter about two weeks before I went in, and that's when they asked me if I wanted to volunteer for this study.
And who was there in that first?
My dad, just my dad. My
So
dad.
you and your dad had gone into the.
Yeah, to the recruiter's
I
office.
see. Okay,
Yeah.
so he went with you the
Yeah.
first time.
But it was in the same office as Colonel let's see,
Burbank.
Colonel Burbank's office, or his office building, and that was the one that was close to where I lived.
So you and
Yeah.
your father walked in with no other prior notification to the recruiter.
No, I was just gonna enlist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just in that moment, he looked at you and said, "Hey."
Yeah.
And so,
You're five.
how does he describe the opportunity to you? More
Well,
the study that you were to volunteer for. How did he describe it to you?
he said they were looking for small people.
So he was specific about
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So he made that clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he didn't say exactly what they were looking for. And then a day or two later contacted me because he had to contact this fellow that came in.
Good, thank you. I was
Yeah,
just wondering that.
because he told him that I was qualified for this particular enlistment, that they were for that what they were looking for, and then they explained it to me, and
So you came back for that.
I came back for that. Yeah.
So
And
much longer?
Then I agreed to it.
So again, elaborate more about how they presented the opportunity to you.
Well,
How do they describe the program?
Well, they told me that they were looking for volunteers for the medical end of it, and that it was they didn't tell me the exact study. They said, but it's a food study. It wasn't anything. And
So at first they didn't say that this was taken from a...
No, they didn't tell me that. And then they told me, and then I made my decision after that. But they had told me that they made a study on the serum that they had with lab mice, and that they made an extensive study, and then they found no reaction with them, and 9 times out of 10 of it, more than that, but no reaction with the lab mice, then there's not going to be a reaction with the human. And so, and then they told me more or less what it was.
So I'm
When was that all in that first meeting?
Not the first
No,
meeting.
not the first meeting with the person from that study.
When the recruiter contacted
Right.
that, and then I fit the bill. I was 18. I was small, and then they I guess they were figuring space people that had died, because they didn't, as far as I could determine, they didn't really find anybody alive because the atmospheric.
I'd like to ask more questions about that.
Yeah, yeah.
In a minute, because I'm struck by how willingly you gave yourself to a potentially very risky endeavor. So were they assuring you that
And your father, too.
that this had been tested on mice and nothing to worry about, and we're going to give you special treatment if you agree to this? Like how much they need to convince you to sign up for this food project?
Yeah.
Food study.
Well, in those days, there was a lot of naivete
And trust.
and trust.
Yes.
You know, and my dad worked for the Army base.
And he was already top security?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he had been there, he went to work there in 1941. And so he was in a situation, he was too young for First World War, too old for Second World War. And so he worked there, and it was sort of the explanation of the study in that, like, wasn't that dangerous or anything, you know, that we could have been, you know, but as far as it wasn't dangerous.
Did your father seem suspicious, or did he ask questions? Did he seem protective?
Well, he, let's put it this way, he was sort of a stern German fellow, and what the bosses were saying, pretty much, you know, he would take their side rather than my side, and it, to me, it didn't sound that awful bad.
Did having your father's endorsement? Yeah.
Endorsement, yeah.
So that
yeah.
it sounds like
Yeah.
if he was involved with this,
Yeah,
that was enough for you.
That was enough.
Got it.
He didn't
Okay.
say, don't, you know, I wouldn't do it if I were you, because
Yeah.
if he just said I wouldn't do it if I were you, I wouldn't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Any more on that?
Makes sense. No, I think that.
So once you agreed to that, in that second meeting at the recruiter's office, and you agreed to join this particular program. Oh, and did they promise you special treatment as
Right.
part of that?
Any benefits, or?
Not particularly.
At least not in that meeting, at least.
Just an
No.
opportunity to help your country.
Yeah. It was. It was. Well,
You were
the
very patriotic
expression.
and trusting back
The
then.
expression "young and dumb."
Yeah. Comes to mind, huh?
It comes to mind, yeah. And because there was a lot of, through that whole period, there was a lot of bad reactions to this kind of stuff. There was a lot of testing going on that, you know,
Yes, but people didn't know about it.
didn't have the outcome that I had.
Right.
You know.
But
You didn't discover that till later, I'm assuming.
No.
Didn't discover other bad outcomes until much later.
No.
Yeah.
And I never heard of any other study like this. There undoubtedly were, but yeah.
So after you agreed to join that program, then go to the part about how you got to Edwards and what happened. With much greater detail, please, about what happened at Edwards.
Okay.
yeah, and the timing.
Yeah.
Okay. The
So you agreed to join the program. Like 2 days later, you enlist. Then what?
right. And I was out there. I went to from Savannah to.
Did you do any kind of basic training before you went to the?
No, I had basic training afterwards.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they really wanted you in that program ASAP.
Right. That was something that they were offering recruits.
And did they have any kind of name for this program at all?
No.
Not that you knew of.
No.
So all you knew of it was just
a food study.
A food
A
study
food
program
study. A food
with
study.
a serum.
Yeah.
That's all the only terminology.
And they were very nice to me.
And that they were very, very nice to you.
Yeah.
And it treated you very well post-study.
Right. Yeah. And well, it was just something that you didn't really think about twice back then. That was in '54. And
So you get on the DC-4, fly from Savannah to Edwards. Was it Edwards proper or somewhere near there?
Edwards Air
At
Force
the,
Base.
at the Air Force Base.
At the Air Force.
Okay.
And then Area 51, that was That's close by.
Right.
One's in California. Edwards is in California, and
Yeah.
Edwards or
Yeah.
Area 51 is in Nevada.
Right. That's why I'm asking specifically where you landed, but as best you
But
know.
it was at
Edwards.
Edwards.
You landed
Edwards,
at-
yeah.
Okay.
And they told you that.
Yeah.
First time that you'd ever been there, I assume, as an 18-year-old.
At that time, yeah.
So you land there and then go over in great detail what happens.
Well, the plane taxied into a hangar, and then we got off the plane.
Who else was on the plane with you?
There were not really anybody. Pilots,
And you?
yeah, and
On
me.
a DC-4
No,
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 DC,
no one
DC.
traveled with you?
It was
or-
the two-engine DC
Three.
C-47, the DC-3.
Like
DC-3,
a
DC-2.
50-passenger plane?
Well, it was a cargo. It
A
wasn't.
large plane.
It wasn't set up for. Wasn't set up for passengers.
Okay. But it was
That was-
basically just you and the pilots, and maybe
right,
some crew.
yeah.
Okay. Like a special endeavor to
So
get
someone
you
Yeah.
took you to an airport, and you
Well,
boarded this plane, and then
the plane left the Savannah Ordnance Depot.
someone just took you to the airport, put you on this
That's
plane,
right.
and said bye?
And by,
Mhm.
yeah, and picked me up, and I went in for 3 weeks in the study, and then back to hangar.
So describe, what was the daily routine for 21 days while you were at the Hangar Air Force Base, at Edwards Air Force Base?
Well, it was a lot of
Well, actually, not even that. So you get off, let's go over this first part in great detail. You get off that plane inside the hangar, then what?
And
Then I go to my area.
so someone takes you there,
Well,
guides you
barracks
there?
or-
It was sort of like an office, couple rooms. You know, there was a cot. and
Not like a
everything.
medical facility, or?
Sort of like that. Yeah, it was
Okay.
clean, sterile, and, you know, and white coat people
okay.
around there. And then I was there the full 3 weeks, 21 days.
You had your own room?
Yeah. And I was like the only patient that I saw. There was a bigger area, but mine was cordoned off.
So, okay, so, and you saw the same people every day?
Seeing people every day.
And that was a total of 3 or 4 people, it feels like.
I think it was 4. Yeah.
Okay.
And
All male, female, or females?
no,
or-
they were all male.
All male.
Yeah.
Ranks?
They
Don't know.
white coats.
Just
Oh,
white coats.
here was a question I had,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to interrupt the story
Yeah.
because you're doing a great job. Did you get the impression that any of the people that you worked with, especially during those 21 days, those 4 people, I guess, were they enlisted people or were these contractors? Or did you have anyone to know?
I back then I wouldn't have had the knowledge to be able to
even-
the
so you assumed-
education to
Right, to
discern
discern
which
that.
is which.
So you
Yeah.
probably just assumed these were fellow enlisted men.
Or just Army people?
Army people,
Or
yeah, I
something.
guess. Yeah.
Did anyone have an accent?
Good question.
No,
No,
nothing.
they're all
no.
American.
Caucasian?
Yeah.
Caucasian American
Yeah.
accents.
20 something, 20, 30 or younger?
Or older
No,
people?
no, they're middle age. I think
30s, 40s?
the lead man was probably maybe 35, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But no, but it was sort of cordoned off, and everything happened in that one spot.
Okay. And so go back to the daily routine, especially on day 1. How did day 1 unfold?
Well, we flew from Savannah to Edwards, and I think it was like early morning. Got there because they started off with. Just it wasn't even much of indoctrination. You know. How can I explain that? They more or less, they took my vital signs, you know, like the doctor's coming, and they explained to me what was going to happen. I was going to get the 2 ounces of the serum once a day, and they didn't say they didn't say anything about meals or anything else, because I figured, well, I'll drink this. And I drank it, and no taste or anything else.
And this is shortly after you got off the plane. They give you
Shortly
your
after,
first
yeah,
dose
that was
of
my
this stuff.
first day.
Okay.
And then they started doing my vitals, and they took blood work.
After
and,
you took this.
After I took it, yeah, and I urine tests and pulse and everything. And
But at that point, it was just presented to you as the serum with no background about what the serum was or where it came from.
they didn't tell me, no,
Okay.
they didn't tell me anything about that.
And nor the fact that you were going to be denied food or sustenance.
There wasn't mentioned, really. And so once I drank it, the 2 ounces, I just didn't feel thirsty or hungry or anything. And so that had to have that serum had to have the thirst to take care of your thirst,
Right.
plus your hunger.
But also we think about like, okay, I've, traveled all night or whatever, and I'm here, and wouldn't I normally get breakfast? Our head would
Right,
think,
yeah.
It's time to
Yeah.
eat.
And the 2 ounces that curbed my hunger.
Uh-huh.
That took my hunger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about just the idea, not necessarily hunger.
Right,
But
yeah.
you didn't feel like, no
No.
breakfast, so what?
And then they took my blood test, urine tests.
Uh-huh.
They were doing all that at the same time. And then there was exercising and
But you were all by yourself for 21 days, save a few lab
these-
technicians,
yeah.
basically. And so how did you pass your time this whole time?
Well, I know I got 8 hours of sleep at night, and everything else was activity.
They scheduled the whole day.
They scheduled the whole thing with the tests,
Uh-huh.
and I was doing exercise and stuff like that. It wasn't, but that was mainly it. They never offered me any food because they knew I wasn't going to need any food.
And you never asked
And
about it.
I never had because I never
Was any
been hungry.
was food and or water available to you, or did they deny that to you?
Uh,
were there drinking fountains in the hallways?
No, it was just the 2 ounces.
And
that-
nothing else even, like no,
No,
and no one ate or drank in front of you.
no,
Okay.
and there was no thirst. And
Well,
so
at some point, that must have seemed odd to you. I'm here for 4 days. I'm not thirsty. I'm not hungry. So I guess my question is, when did they start explaining to you what the expected results might be?
well, they just said they said to me that I wouldn't need to eat.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
At the very
you know,
beginning?
because I wouldn't have. Somehow
Okay.
it takes your hunger. It takes your hunger.
So they
your
told you
thirst
this
away.
at the very beginning?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
don't worry
So
about
there
it.
was no surprise
Don't worry-
about
yeah.
not having meals?
And there wasn't. My energy level didn't go down.
Uh-huh.
And I got my 8 hours of sleep. I was active, exercising and that during the day. Plus, they were doing tests, every day.
And did they collect your, I don't want to be too
Yeah,
personal here,
yeah.
but they collected
They
urine,
collected urine
and bowel
and
movements and
blood
all that?
and everything.
The full
Your
spectrum.
elimination, they collected all that too?
Pardon me?
When you eliminated?
Everything.
Everything?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And at
yeah,
some
yeah.
point, did you stop going to the bathroom?
No, in the number 2
Right.
part.
That
But,
stopped.
Urine. Urine was always.
But you continued to urinate?
Yeah.
Well, that's very curious.
That is,
Yeah.
because you're only taking in 2 ounces.
It's
Did it-
taken, yeah.
Did it taper off, or?
Want me to taper off 2 ounces?
No.
Urine taper
The
off.
urine, like, would it become?
It didn't seem to. No,
Really?
it was, it was something that, it must have been the humanoids that were surviving on this. It had to have a property in it that took care of it.
Maybe it absorbed water out of the air?
That's all I can
Yep.
think of.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
Yeah,
the only-
it was, but, because on a spaceship, you wouldn't necessarily be getting anything
Carrying
anyway.
volumes of
Right.
water,
Yeah,
yeah.
so they were giving me what I would have got off
Yes.
if I'd have been. But,
So other than routine medical procedures during these 21 days
Yeah.
and and some degree of exercising, which
Yeah,
we'll talk
I got a
about
lot
that
of
in a
exercise.
minute.
Yeah.
What about the mental acuities? Were you tested with?
My mental alertness, you could tell that it was.
Were they measuring that somehow?
No, there was no
tests on that.
no tests on that. No.
That's interesting.
Did you just sit around and read, or did you have activities?
No, it was active. It was active, but then
All indoors the whole time.
all indoors. Yeah.
So what would the routine be? Like you get up, you have your 2 ounces. Did you shower or?
Oh yeah.
You did
oh,
shower?
Oh yeah. You shower. Yeah.
Okay, so you were exposed
and
to
you
water
dressed,
there.
And you dressed.
And you dressed.
And then they would do their testing.
So the medical testing.
The medical, your blood pressure.
Yeah.
How closely were you monitored during that time? Like,
What?
if you could have sipped some water in the shower, for example, would they have caught you doing it?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
But as far as you can recall, you never cooked any
No,
fluids orally besides
it was that.
and didn't feel any thirst
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. And then when I left, then I went back to my regular routine, and nothing. There was no reaction.
So you had like 4 double cheeseburgers that 21st day?
No, I was a 120-pound weekly on the comic books, getting sand kicked in the
What
face.
was it like, joking aside with the cheeseburger, what was it like eating for the
To
first
start
time
eating
after
again.
21 days? Was there discomfort or?
No, I don't. I really don't recall. It was.
Did they gradually move you into eating, like eat a little bit first and then more?
No, I got on the plane, flew to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri,
And just ate in the mess.
and then I went and ate in the mess because I got hungry.
Yeah.
After not getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
So
that
it just clicked on.
yeah. See, now if somebody could have recreated that into today's society, that'd be the $1 million stuff.
Yeah.
But I've thought about this a lot over my lifetime, and I was just wondering if they just couldn't figure it out. It's just it's surprising, but who knows where this stuff came from, and 2 or 3 people on a spacecraft had to live on that for years.
So we feel the same way.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yes.
So describe again how did they share with you the knowledge about where the serum came from? Frankly, I'm surprised they would tell you at all where it came from. Like, what purpose would it serve the experimenters to tell their subjects the origin of the serum?
You mean coming off the
And why you were shown the photographs. So go over that part of the story.
Well, I guess that was the whole process of the program to show you what was going to happen to you, how you were going to live, and you were going to see what that did to the human body as opposed to what it does to the humanoid body.
And this was during the recruiting process? This was once
when I got there.
when you got there to Edwards.
To Edwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's when it started taking in the.
So on what? So
No, the description, when they describe and show you the pictures. When did that happen? When and where did that happen?
The pictures of the spaceship.
Right, and the
That was
humanoids.
at Edwards.
That was it? Okay, so after you'd already
and that
gone
was
to Edwards.
that wasn't it.
How far into the 21-day program was that disclosed to you?
Oh, that was right away.
Right away, like day 1 or day 3?
Well, no, I would say pretty much. It was pretty busy day 1, maybe day 2. I don't know.
So go over that
Maybe.
part carefully. So you go in for maybe your 2nd or 3rd day of treatment, and at some point, how did they present that information to you?
The information on.
Where the serum came from, the photographs,
The
etc.
craft.
Well, the only thing they told me about the serum it was because they didn't know. They knew it. They knew the serum came off the spacecraft.
How did they tell you that exactly?
They sit you
told
down
me.
for a meeting
Yeah.
and say, we're going to tell you?
Yeah,
or-
because see, they said I knew on on the way out there, or when this was all arranged, I knew what the program was
So they,
to start with. See, I knew they told me what the program they had
In
it-
Savannah.
in Savannah. They had once the handler got
Right.
there. He said we have a study, spacecraft. We have the serum. We have the exercise, little exercise equipment, and then of course they had the other things. But I was only concerned. They were concerned about the serum and the exercise stuff. So, but as far as
So when you were first given that serum, as far as you knew, this was a material that came off of a spacecraft.
that was off the spacecraft. Yeah.
what I find interesting is they told you about the spacecraft and the humanoid beings
Uh-huh.
and the serum and the
Yeah.
exercise equipment
Yeah.
before you even enlisted.
No.
You were already enlisted?
No. When the handler got out, we had the recruiter.
Right,
The recruiter called in the handler.
right.
The
You
ha-
get- that was your second meeting
Yeah,
then?
I told her, the recruiter had explained not the spacecraft and this other stuff.
Right.
He explained that this was a special program and that the handler would explain it to me, but it was safe. And so I agreed. And then the handler came in, and then the handler explained.
Were you enlisted at that point?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
the first day you enlisted?
I enlisted on June 1st.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were all ready. So this was after June 1st?
Yeah, they didn't tell me. He didn't come in to me before I was elected. But
Thank
they
you.
told me.
Yeah.
But they told me somewhat about a little bit about the program before.
Yes, and you agreed to it, and then,
And I
so you
agreed to
enlisted and you stayed, where did you stay after you enlisted and in between those two meetings?
Well, I got on the plane and went to Edwards. I went from Savannah.
Yeah, but when the handler, you spoke with the handler in Savannah first?
Right.
Okay, and so you enlisted on June 1st,
Right.
and you met with the handler, because they had to fly him in?
I had met with the handler. I had talked to the recruiter
Right.
before I enlisted.
Right.
Yeah, and he called in, and then I agreed that I was going to enlist. 'Cause
What
I-
happened in between the time you enlisted and he told you, you agreed to it,
Yeah.
and the time that they brought in the handler to explain things to you? Did you live at home then? And
No, I
just-
was still at home.
You
yeah,
were still at home,
yeah.
okay.
And then I got on the plane.
After, well, you met the
Went-
handler, and the handler then put you on the plane?
and went to Edwards.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But
That
before,
helps us get the time.
Yeah.
before you ever got on the plane, ever arrived at Edwards Air Force Base, you'd already been explained what the program was and where the serum came from.
Right.
So back, go for
But
that
you were
part.
already in the Army then?
Yeah, that was it.
Well, by
yeah.
a couple of days, it feels like.
Yeah.
Right,
By
yeah.
a couple of
The
days.
Few
handler
days.
explained it.
Right.
Because he was the one that was out.
And you never got that person's name.
No.
Buck?
No.
Call me Buck.
No.
Call me Buck.
So that was the handler? I thought that was the guy
No,
in...
that was the handler.
That was the handler.
Well, the handler was out. The handler went out to Edwards.
Oh, so you had met the handler in Savannah,
I met
and then
the
the
handler
same
in
guy
Savannah, yeah.
oversaw your
Yeah, he was the
program?
one. Yeah, he was the one that made the decision whether or not I
I see.
qualified, and he was on the plane.
Oh, he flew on the plane with you too?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
So you
that-
did have someone accompany you then?
yeah,
And that was
on
Buck.
the plane. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But he wasn't one of the four people that you were with during the 21 days. None of those people were familiar to you until you met them on day one.
no, the handler was no, the handler was there. Yeah,
The handler was
the
one of the
handler.
four people.
The handler was there. Yeah, because
At Edwards?
yeah, he was more or less the coordinator of this thing.
Okay. He didn't do your day-to-day,
He was around there.
but he was around?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because there was it was like being in a room like this for 21 days. You know, there wasn't. I didn't see
But but
what
he
was
came,
happening
he would
around.
come and go.
But yeah, he was in and out and stuff like that.
So, sorry to keep going back to it, but can you describe again how that information was delivered to you about where the serum came from and what they were trying to do as using you as a study subject?
The handler explained it to me in Savannah.
And how did that happen? And how were these photographs presented to you?
The what?
The photographs
The photograph of
of the bodies and of
How
the
did they
craft.
do that?
uh,
He just sat you down? And
that was, yeah, they had the photograph of the ship, the spaceship, and then the bodies, and then they had the serum, and then they had the exercise that
the humanoids had used.
Humanoids did for their space
So he just
travel.
set that down on a table for you and opened up a
Yeah.
file folder and showed
Yeah.
you this stuff?
Yeah, because you more or less, well, they more or less had to do that because they did it afterwards. You had to know what you were getting into.
To make sure you really agreed to it.
That you agreed to it, yeah. And so before I agreed to it, that's, I knew it. I knew what was coming.
Especially when he shows you a picture of non-human entities.
Yeah,
These
right.
are black and white photographs?
Right.
Describe those photographs in
Yes.
detail, please.
Well, there's, they look like mummies, 3.5 feet long. And
In what kind
How
of
did you tell? Was there a measuring, a ruler, or is there a way to measure how long?
well, that's about,
Or someone
that's
standing
about
next to
what, that's about what they look like, about the size that they look like.
Was this in like a hospital environment, or was this in the
Yeah.
desert? Or
Yeah,
so these have been recovered and stuck on a gurney?
yeah, yeah. Hard telling where they came from.
Any clothing?
No, they were dead.
Clearly dead.
Because the atmosphere was different. They couldn't survive. They could live as long as their capsule didn't crack and get the
Did they tell you this?
yeah. That my handler told me this. They were dead when they with the crash landing.
They were
died.
already dead.
And did he tell you at some point this was from the Roswell crash, or was this just
They
the
didn't,
term Roswell was never mentioned to you?
they,
then?
they didn't mention Roswell. No.
So the military has recovered these. What did they call them when they showed you that picture? What did they say as they present that picture to you?
Space aliens.
Is that the term they used?
Yeah.
Space aliens.
Yeah. And that's
How many of them were in that photograph?
Two.
Two. Side by side on a gurney, or
yeah.
two different?
Two
Yeah.
different-
Because they had that they didn't tell me when the crash was or how long these guys died, but the atmosphere didn't work.
What did they look like?
Well, the pictures that you see anywhere,
But
you know.
what did you see?
Well,
What could you see the texture of the skin?
Well, if you looked at them from the neck down, they were skinny, long, sort of, but natural body type. But then when you got to the head was bigger, and you see the eyes were.
Were the eyes? How did you know they were dead? Were their eyelids closed, or did they?
Well, they were. I thought they were pictures, so they, because they couldn't survive.
Right.
They couldn't survive once the seal on the spacecraft
So
broke.
your handler told you they were dead?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because they didn't breathe. They couldn't breathe this atmosphere. And that, but see, that's the mystery of the whole thing. You wonder if they were actually coming to Earth specifically for some reason or another, or if they got misplaced in their flight and came to Earth, and then they crashed, and then I don't think they probably won't ever know that yet. But yeah.
Any other details on the? Was there a single photograph of these two beings, or were there more than one photograph?
No, it was just one. It was side by side.
Single photograph of two
Yeah.
beings, black and white.
Were there other humans in the picture?
No, no, they were on a like a cot, like that.
Not a gurney on wheels,
Or-
a cot.
Yeah.
Like a hospital or laboratory
Yeah.
setting.
It was, and I didn't know how old the pictures were. I didn't see any actual bodies or spacecraft or anything like that. But that's where the Roswell thing is sort of a mystery.
We can come back to that.
Yeah.
And we don't know if these humanoids were from Roswell or something.
We don't know.
Else, right?
No, I didn't.
With their eyes, like in the pictures we see,
Like-
were they
like
glassy
in
and
the-
dark?
Well, it was a black and white picture. Yeah.
Okay.
So they were.
So no eyelid or
No.
just
No. And their head was protruding.
large at the top and small at the bottom.
So
No apparent injuries and no clothing.
no clothing. No injuries. Because they probably, well, once they crashed, they probably died. Because they once seal on the spacecraft broke, then wrong atmosphere get in there.
But that's what
Survived.
the handler told you.
Yeah.
And what about the other picture of the? You're only showing two pictures total.
Two pictures.
Craft and
the
body.
craft, and yeah.
So now please describe what the craft looked like. Your impressions of the craft picture.
Well, it was circular and
And what kind of a setting was it? Was it in a hangar? Or was it
rocky.
So it was outdoors.
Like a rocky setting, yeah. So they hadn't. Well, it didn't look like they had taken anything off of it. Yeah. So I don't.
And the engine?
I couldn't tell. You couldn't tell whether they had taken the engine off. But that they get a lot of stuff off of that. They got stuff off of that probably they wouldn't believe today.
So it was outdoors in a rocking environment.
Yeah. Because you figure 20 years before I was born, they only could fly a kite. And 100 years later, they can go how fast?
Any idea of the size of this circular craft?
It was hard to tell from the picture. Wouldn't have been too awful big.
20 meters or 200 meters?
Meters,
Approximately.
Or yards?
yards, maybe 50 around.
50 yards diameter,
Yeah.
approximately.
Half a football field.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good size.
It's pretty good size.
And so it's a mystery, you know.
Nothing else distinguishing in the photographs? No damage or personnel or equipment or...
No,
And no people sitting near it? Or
it was just trash there.
it wasn't damaged? It was
What
just
do you mean?
The saucer,
The saucer?
the vehicle.
It didn't necessarily look like it was damaged because it was sort of landed this way, I suppose. I don't know. It wasn't that good a picture. And
So they just show it to you and then take it back? Or?
well, they had it there, and that was about the extent of it. You know.
How large were the photographs?
You mean of the
The photographs you
Oh.
presented, the black and white photographs, 8 by 10 or
8 by
smaller?
10, 8 by 10, I would say, yeah. Because they were, my interest in that, I was already volunteered in the
Right,
program,
right.
you know, so it's whatever that looked like or whatever really didn't mean much to me other than the fact that it was there.
Would have to me.
Yeah.
Well, had you ever heard of flying saucers before that?
Yeah, I've heard, that was
Had you heard of?
55.
You'd heard about?
Well, I knew
Roswell?
all about Roswell.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, I was 11 when Roswell
Uh huh.
happened.
Right.
But as I studied more on Roswell, just, there was so many inconsistencies down there.
Did you get the impression that if you'd asked more questions from this handler who was presenting you these photographs, that he would have provided you more information, or was it he's going to just limit your need to know to
Well,
as little as possible?
they were pretty open about, I knew what happened. I knew it was a spacecraft. I knew it was outer space, and I was wondering about the food. I mean, that was the mystery to me.
That was your focus.
That was my, and that was going to be my nourishment.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty personal.
I was pretty confident that it was going to be okay, because I saw the mice.
Oh, they showed you the mice
I saw the mice. Yeah, they had
in Edwards. At Edwards.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they had I think it was 20 couples, and because boy and girl, and one group just ate the regular corn and oats or whatever they fed them, and then the other group was on the serum that I was taking, and the ones on the serum were good shape, So and
Gave
my
you confidence.
mice and men. Yeah.
Mice and men. Interesting. They show you their
Your mice.
lab rats.
Right.
Was that on day one, or do you recall? When did you just get to see?
Probably probably second day or so, because it was getting accustomed to what was going on, and because it was like, what'd you get yourself into?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get the impression that same group of 4 or so white coats, were they doing other
Yeah.
things there
Yeah.
as well? Like you
Yeah.
were one project
I
or
always
several?
just went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
they
it
were
was-
engaged in other kinds of research. They wasn't just exclusively focused on you.
No, they weren't exclusive.
So did you have times during the day when you were in between activities that you just sit there and wait, or?
Exercise was about the only thing.
Uh-huh. What kind of exercise?
Well, it was with this stuff, stretchings.
So they prescribed exercise for you?
Oh yeah,
Very
yeah,
prescribed.
Yeah, and to give you the idea that it doesn't. With this here, what I learned from this here, this right here that's sitting on the floor, you can eliminate this building.
Yeah.
You can eliminate every fitness club in the world, and you got these things right here, and you can get more fitness out of them than paying the thousands and thousands of dollars for it.
How do you think the experimenting group were aware of the exercises and how to conduct them exactly? How would they have learned that from presumably dead extraterrestrials?
Well, you can look at them and figure it out.
So they
but-
had these. This is what they had on in the
This is-
saucer.
This is what was on the saucer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what material they used to on the saucer, but let's feel how we. Okay, there's nothing
That
to
weighs,
it.
no,
There's nothing to it,
12 ounces.
but how, when you hold it out like that, how long can you hold it out like that?
Right. You've got the weight of your arms too.
The way you run.
Right.
And you got the pressure on the thing. And these things are great. I've used these things for years.
So how do you feel, again, that the experimenters knew the routine that was optimum? You feel they just intuited it?
You mean the human experiments?
Yes.
The people that taught you the exercise routines and the number of repetitions and all the...
Well, they had these there, and they more or less said, figured out.
Ah, okay.
What would you say? Okay, now how can you get adequate exercise from these two things? Figured out, and then it was simple, really, when you get through it, squeeze it. And isometric exercises go back to the ancient Greeks, long before. And every guy in this room that goes up to this weight room, we get the same thing out of these. And that was why they had these on the ships, because they couldn't get anything else on there. And But that's all you need, really.
And so all day long, you, in between your morning physical, and I imagine they did your physical at the end of the day too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do we need to,
Yeah.
Is that, are you?
we're
like,
filming.
Yeah, we have we're,
Can I mean,
Sure.
Sure.
yeah.
So they just kind of left you to your own to do exercises during the day?
Yeah, but it was all in sort of an enclosed place.
Sure.
You know, and you bided your
So they
time.
didn't monitor you every minute of the day?
No, you didn't have any wires on you or anything.
If I mean, they weren't there watching you?
Not particularly. No, they would check in.
Uh-huh.
They would check in.
How you doing?
And you weren't eating.
Right.
You know.
That leaves you a lot of time.
That was a lot of time. And you see that was the thing that the Army was looking for. You got a guy sitting here all day long. He's had 2 ounces of food. How much? I got a battalion of 1,000 people over here. 2 ounces of food each day. You know, that's
Sure.
a heck of a lot of logistics down the tubes. You don't have to, and that's what they were looking for. They wanted to reproduce. And of course, they told me that.
Yeah. So you did have time to yourself?
More or less, yeah. I didn't have somebody with me all the time. I could lay down. But then when you got bored, you know, I could run in place or whatever. Because I was 18.
Right.
That wasn't.
I could
I would-
imagine
Yeah.
being very bored at
I
18.
was going to say, I'm sure you were very bored and lonely for such a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I wasn't necessarily anxious about my volunteering for what I volunteered for.
Did you know the scope of the 21 days? They told you ahead of time this was a 3-week
21
program.
days, 3 weeks.
So you knew there was an end coming.
Yeah, I knew it was.
Did you have a wristwatch or a calendar on the wall?
I had probably a calendar on the wall, maybe, but well, everything was new. You know, out of high school, into the Army, into something a little nowhere.
Yeah, what was your, I don't know, mental state during that 21 days? Excitement?
It was something new. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Satisfied that you're engaged in an important project?
Oh, yeah. No, that was. See, when Roswell hit when I was 11, that was a big deal. But it was, in reality, it was a little deal. But it was built up as a big deal by Roswell
Yeah.
because the war had just got over with. 2 years since the war was over. Of course, they were laying off people at the Army base. The economy of Roswell was going down, and they needed some way to restore it. And it was museums, and it was the space crash, and it was this, and it was that, and you got thousands of people to go to Roswell. And you mentioned the name of Roswell, and most everybody's heard about Roswell. But not as much happened down there as sound. So, but no, at 18, you pretty well keep busy. And,
So the other time that the, what would you say, the military experimenters came to engage with you again was several years later when you had your tonsillectomy in France. But other than that, you haven't been contacted or observed or studied or...
no,
I think there'd be some curiosity. Have you expected them to come knocking and take a blood sample?
I thought possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then once 73 came around, and then they lost my military records. I'm thinking,
Maybe they'd love to find you, but they can't find you.
When did you ask for when did you find out about the fire?
oh, I don't know. It was pretty well known. Yeah, that because let's see, where's it at? Where it says, oh, it says on there, right here, this is where all these records right here was destroyed.
Well, this printout is dated October 1st of this year.
Pardon me?
This printout.
Oh, yeah, I just printed that off.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But you had you submitted a request for your medical records?
No, I did after the fire.
Okay. So you heard
Because
about the fire.
I heard about the fire.
Did you live in that area still?
Well, it was in St. Louis.
In St. Louis.
Let's see, 73. Was I in? No, I was in 73. I was in California. But I was in the Air National Guards for a while, California Air National Guard, and those records didn't get destroyed. Of course, they weren't down there then. But it was 1960, I think, was the end of the. But once the mystery behind the fire, they never solved it. There could be 1,000 different reasons why people wanted those, because that went back to 1912, I guess it was.
1912, November 1, 12 to January 1, 1960.
Yeah.
Destroyed.
Yeah.
Estimated loss 80%. Some have been, in addition, millions of documents have been lent to the Department of Veteran Affairs before the fire occurred. Therefore, a complete listing of the records that were lost is not available. So you made an attempt to see if yours was with the VA or not.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they said it was not
Yeah.
available.
Not available. No, it was. That's when they sent me that other paper. Let's see. Oh, this one. This is the date. This is the date on this one. But this is what they send out to the
Yeah,
people.
this is April of 16.
Yeah, was sent out to the people that were whose records were destroyed.
Okay. And you requested this year.
I just requested that,
Yeah.
and this copy here, I had that,
Uh-huh.
and I filed this copy with my county clerk back in Illinois.
That's what you call a DDR 214,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That whole form is
Yeah.
called DDR 214.
that's the only thing that really is left out of my records.
And what is that, discharge?
Anybody that leaves the military gets one of those forms,
One of those.
regardless of their rank or
Right.
honorable, dishonor. So leave the military, you're issued that.
So those are your discharge papers.
That has all your and that-
honor. Oh, here's an honorable discharge.
that's California.
Sounds like they misspelled your name.
You have trouble getting people to spell your name right.
That is.
So you're Siedenburg, not Siedenburg.
Siedenburg, yeah.
Siedenburg, yeah.
Okay, now that, let's see. Where do I have that at? I got it here somewhere. Oh, here. There's, okay, this is my original birth certificate. They wrote it out longhand.
Oh,
Right.
so it's hard to read the
I know.
IE, yeah.
They generally had good handwriting.
1936.
Too close?
Okay, that's good. Show the DDR 214. Sorry. Okay, thank you. That's probably good. Okay, well, Don, thanks again for sharing the story with us.
Any other impressions you would want to share?
Yeah.
Well,
You've lived with us for a long time.
I have. And, well, I've thought about it. I was lucky that it came out good. You know,
Yes,
that it
you
wasn't,
are.
you know,
It was
because.
your own lock, stock, and barrel
Right.
when you enlisted.
No, somebody told me today, here, try this stuff that came from outer space. I think I might turn it down. But back then, you know, young and dumb.
And trusting your father, trusting the system.
Yeah.
We don't trust the system the same now as we did.
You don't trust the system. Yeah. So, what would you like of this stuff?
If we can have
we'll take it
these
all,
copies.
please.
Yeah, we'll take everything you're willing to.
What was those other questions from Lori? There they are.
Yes.
I think you already covered this. This is another researcher that is studying a similar kind of case that involves serum. So she asked us, well, I'll just ask you. I think you already answered these questions. Who gave you the food? Was it a medical doctor?
The serum? Was it a fella in a white coat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did it taste like? Was there an aftertaste that lingered? Smell or texture?
No. There was no,
No
taste,
taste?
no taste, no smell.
And you already demonstrated the viscosity
Yeah.
and no texture beyond
And it
what
wasn't
you.
hard to
And
swallow.
that was the thickness. So you could take that too.
But it was clear as opposed to what
Clear
that was.
like
Crystal clear.
Yeah.
Slightly viscous. Were there? I think you already answered this. Were there any markings, logos, or wording on the packaging? How was it dispensed to you? Did they?
Oh, I didn't get a package.
Did they
I
present
guess
you a teaspoon?
Just a teaspoon.
Yeah.
Or a spoon for 2 ounces.
Okay.
So like a little cup.
Oh, it was in a spoon.
In a spoon.
Because a couple you wouldn't get it all out.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Ah.
So somebody just presented you a spoon and
Spoon,
you
and I
swallowed.
just-
it. Okay. And so no markings, logos. I guess I asked that. Did you feel any immediate reaction right after consuming it?
No. There wasn't any reaction at all.
No, right. Okay.
And how often we got
It was
that?
once a day.
8 o'clock in the morning.
8 a.m.
8
2
a.m.
ounces.
in the morning.
No time, anytime you're hungry, you know, or specifically a few times a day. No.
Never made you sick or had no kind of reaction?
No.
And you're not aware of anybody else that was a cohort in this program?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And then these questions, I think we've got covered. Oh, yeah, so I'll shut the camera off. Just say your
no, we
name
can
again,
make it.
please. And
Okay.
Oh, sorry, we have one more question.
Yes. And well, actually, we have his blood work. We already. This is just asking if you'd be willing to run blood work for this, but you just gave us that.
Yeah. That's
recently run.
Yeah.
Okay. And if anyone wanted to ask you if they could do a DNA test, would you be willing?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we were supposed to bring a
Yeah,
kid.
yes.
It didn't
yeah,
arrive.
Yeah, it didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
it didn't arrive.
Yeah.
Okay. Don, just for the record again, spell your last name, today's date.
Okay, it's Siedenburg, Siedenburg, and today's date is November 30th, 2016.
And we're in Grants Pass, Oregon.
Grant Pass Award. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Don. Should have the stopwatch rolling.
All right.
Don, we're curious about what was the experience like having to maintain your secrecy oath after you went through this experiment?
Loyalty. When I never realized when you enlist in the service that you're obligating yourself to 3 years, and it seems so funny when you do this. And then as you go along, you feel obligations and obligations. And so when this come about, if I tell anybody, they're not going to believe me.
Yes.
And so if I don't tell anybody, I'm not going to get in trouble.
You're not going to get in trouble, and you're not going to be disbelieved.
And I'm not going to be believed. So I just kept it to myself.
Really? So over the last what, 60-some years, you've never felt
No,
at all tempted?
no.
Ever?
80, my date was 80. I said,
So you gave yourself a date.
I gave myself a date.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
When I turn 80,
Uh-huh.
then I'll tell my
And
story.
you did that when you were young? You decided when I'm 80, I'll.
No, see, when I was young, I sort of forgot about it.
Uh-huh.
Sort of forgot about it.
It's just sort of other parts of raising kids and marriage and
Yeah.
things. You just sort of, and then as you get older and things are this and that, and
Think about things more.
things about because see, I've been able to do things.
Yeah.
How many 80-year-old guys can do what I did?
Yeah.
You-
And
you-
what was your life like? What work did you do?
Well, I worked in a warehouse. I worked on a farm. I worked for Dunder Bradstreet in Chicago. I did all kinds of stuff, but I always wanted to do physical work, and not because I like to do physical work, but because of from the health part. I've been always very healthy. Don't smoke, don't drink, no drugs, and it's just the idea that. Out of fear or loyalty or whatever, I didn't tell this story, but probably mainly because I figured nobody believed me, and so. But it's been a real roller coaster, and it's been fun. I tell people, I went to a class reunion, my 50th class reunion in 2004, and I'm looking around the room, and I say to myself, there's not one person in this room I'd change places with. Not one.
That's
And
a
there was
nice.
a few in there that most people might have changed places with. And I had a wonderful life, and a lot of things happened, and I can do things that 80-year-old guys can't do. And that's why I come in here every day. The wise swim, gym, and it's
Do you think that you've had a good and active life is because just this is your nature and it's what you believe in, or do you think there was a connection to this serum?
I think the longevity part, I think, is the serum.
In your family, are people as long lived as this?
That I have, but not the kind of life that I've lived.
Not
I've
as
lived-
active and
Not a, yeah,
which is a good factor for longevity.
right, yeah. I mean, I've had elderly relatives that, well, like my dad died when he was 67. My dad couldn't walk from that door to that door,
And he didn't take care of himself.
and he didn't take care of himself. Yeah.
That's a
Well,
big factor.
But see the Army part, that taught me how to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but when all that was going on, I was a kid. I didn't really realize what would happen. But I'm sure that my longevity is what I can do now. I'm amazed myself sometimes because there's so many other people can't do it.
Right.
And I'm happy. And
That's
I
a
have,
big piece too.
Pardon me?
That you're happy. You're
Yeah.
happy with your life.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. And it's all because of taking care of yourself, good health, and this is an experience. This is something. And you read the part. You read my high school scholastic record.
Right.
I was as dumb as a rock.
You were no. If you're ADHD, that's not dumb.
No, but once I got this,
It changed you permanently.
it changed me. It changed my mindset.
Yes. You experienced focus and
Like,
clarity.
say more about that. Like, when you say that you feel the serum affected you, how'd you say?
in your.
I could comprehend more what was going on around me, and holding on to it, knowing that it's very important. Because I have a high school degree where I graduated. Well, it's on the. Tell you where how I graduated.
See that?
Where is it? Down here.
Right.
46 out of
52.
36 out of 52. And I would go up against
Those people now.
the rest of those people now in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And it's all because of a lot of that, and that gave me the endurance and the wherewithal.
Describe more the mental benefits. Use some more language that helps describe your experience with the serum giving you mental benefits.
Well, just the fact that I can do things at 80 that most people can't.
Lucidity, clarity, intelligence, stamina,
Clarity and intelligence. I can read now and I can understand and
comprehension.
I mean, I put all this together, and this here was my story. You can have that.
That's out of the
Okay.
newspaper?
That's online.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
I think I texted that to you.
This went to Chase.
Okay. I think we've
I
all
think
read
yes,
that.
I
in
think you've
Jan.
seen-
Yeah, I sent you a
Yeah.
copy.
Yes.
of that. Yeah. Well, I couldn't no more have written that
Huh.
back
Just
when I was.
stayed and focused and held the story
Still
in your
wrote-
mind and.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I wrote that in 15 minutes. And my high school diploma, that's the only diploma I've got, other than my type of school in the Army. And so this whole process was changed my life.
So it was a real gift for you.
Really, yeah. I can't say any more about how much of a gift it is.
If they told you that they had that same serum, I bet you'd take that.
Oh, I probably would, yeah.
I think I would too.
I would too.
And if they had that, somebody'd make $1 gazillion.
Yeah.
It really would, like you say,
You know,
transform
but,
everything.
There's one thing I had a little discussion with Chase. Now you know Chase real good.
No.
You know.
I know her pretty well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the outer space people don't know English.
Well,
We can't communicate with outer space people. And so, how are you going to, you take their technology, and how are you going to decipher their technology into our technology without being able to communicate the words to do it? And that's with this stuff here. I'm sure that there have been labs dissect this stuff to find out the ingredients, whatever recipe, and putting it together to do all these things that it could do. Can you imagine what mankind would be like? And I feel so blessed to even found the minute iota of the whole thing. So, I figured if I would have sat at a table with this on it with you fine folks when I was 40 years old, half my life, you wouldn't have believed the thing I'm saying, because I wouldn't be able to put it together.
So you're saying that this ability to focus has increased over your lifetime?
Over time.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't have had the knowledge or because most people, their knowledge goes sort of down as they get older. Mine has gone up. Yeah.
Well, if their mental faculties remain.
Yeah.
And
And I have
Wisdom.
my wife has been dead for 5 years, and I have 2 kids out here, and but I've had a great life, and it's all here. This is it. This is why. And keep going till you die.
oh yeah.
But see, I'm the best basketball shooter out here.
Good for you.
And I play. I go up against guys out here that are 18 years old, and I can be,
You ever told them how old you are? Or do you keep that
Oh,
quiet?
they know.
They know.
They know.
Oh, here comes that
Oh,
80-year-old guy.
oh, yeah. When, when you're young, you don't say, oh, I'm 21. When you're 80, you always say, oh, hey, I'm 80. You don't mind it.
But when you're beating the guys at basketball that are 20,
Yeah,
they don't want to know that
you
about
don't
you.
want to know that. No, that's it. No, it's fun. So I just, I wanted to, you want to share the good things in your life.
Yeah.
And whatever. But there is taking good care of yourself, that helps.